Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Spooky Japan podcast. Today, we are very excited to have Nighthawk Paranormal with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. Pleasure to be
We
here.
are we are excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. So, for our listeners out there who may not be aware of who you are, how would you introduce yourself?
That's going to be a long introduction. I'm a Native American. I'm a military veteran, and I literally was born into the paranormal and basically supernatural cryptid world. I was raised by a full-blooded Lakota father and a mother that was Cherokee and Shawnee, and she was into the let's say the darker arts of the Native American path. And so I learned a lot of the dark ceremonies and even the good ceremonies through both of my parents, and that kind of followed me throughout life. I've had about altogether probably almost 60 years worth of paranormal and supernatural experiences, from growing up in a haunted house and having a highly active country property that we lived on,
Mhm.
where we saw everything from cryptid creatures to lights in the sky to shadow figures, you name it.
How did your journey into the paranormal begin? What made you interested in start learning about, especially all these cryptids and everything else that
I guess it would to put it as plain as I can. Going from being the dark part of the paranormal and supernatural type of stuff, doing the ceremonies and stuff, kind of gave me a wanting to understand more about it and expand my knowledge. So as I was growing up, I just started going on my own cryptid hunts and stuff. I have done literally hundreds of hunts. I've done literally hundreds of paranormal investigations. And here lately, in the last several years, I've been doing I go around and I cleanse houses for people and property for people the
Mm.
Native American way, to remove any bad entities that are on the property. So, but yeah, I just, I basically, I've always been involved in it. And, it's been a fascination for me to just, continue to grow in it.
that sounds really good. I didn't know you could with Native American spirits. I just always tend to like leave alone just because I never thought you could cleanse the area.
Yeah. Well, you have to do it in a certain way. You have to do it. Well, we have a couple different sayings. A lot of the Southwest people call it a walk in beauty. And that walk is more of a traditional type of connection to Mother Earth and all the elements around you,
Mhm.
and Grandmother Sky. And then we have also what we call, like the Northern Plains people call, the Red Road, which is literally a way of life that
Mm.
a spiritual leader, a Wachashawakan, would set you forth on a certain path on the medicine wheel to follow in your life, to start off your life with. And that spiritual path that you're started on, you really learn a lot. You learn how to connect with Mother Earth. You learn how to connect with the ancestors that have crossed over. You learn all kinds of things, the wildlife and nature itself, connections, drawing from the power and helping out with cleansing the powers. So yeah, there's a lot to it. It's not just something you're really. It's not like a special club you're born into.
Mhm.
It's literally a way of life.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know Native American spirits are definitely different from regular
Mhm.
spirits. And it's
Yeah.
funny when you also mentioned shadow figures because we always say shadow figures here in Japan are
Mhm.
completely different than in America. Because I've seen a couple of shadow figures in America, but then I came to Japan and I've seen so many more. And it's
Mhm.
Hmm.
weird because usually shadow figures will like you either briefly see them because they move quickly in and out, or it's just one of those they just kind of like duck and hide. Here in Japan, I feel like they have no issue with standing and just staring at you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
The
that's
first
kind of that's kind of like a lot of the stuff that I've had to deal with when I was a child too with shadow figures is I would see them standing at the foot of my bed just watching me. And I've seen them in broad daylight and 90-degree temperature in the middle of
Mhm.
summer in broad daylight go from tree to tree outside on the
Yeah.
property, and peeping out from behind trees. And that's where the term tree peeper comes from.
Mm.
So, and it's a lot of people may confuse that with other cryptids and stuff, but shadow realm, what I call the shadow realm, is pretty much what everybody calls the veil between the worlds, between the dimensions.
Mhm.
Okay, well, our people call it the shadow realm or the upside down world. It's a living place that's between the fourth and fifth dimension and the third and fourth dimension, that kind of a thing. So when people say the veil's torn, or gone completely, then that's when that shadow realm bleeds over into our world.
Mhm. The
I
shadow
can
the shadow people on Amanda's side are basically, a lot of them are victims of the atomic bomb. They
Mhm.
died instantly. They were killed instantly. So you see a lot more on her side than you see on my side. It's totally
Mhm.
like it's like this and that. On her side is
Right.
that way.
Yeah.
My side totally different. And her side is like, yeah, so you can see what are you gonna do about it, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, and said, don't talk me and I won't talk to you. Don't bother me and I won't bother you. Kind of like feel kind of
Better
like
left
feeling.
unsaid. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they don't like, as long as you don't bother me, I'm not gonna bother you, kind of like thing. And on
Yeah.
my side is more like the jealous suicide victims. So if you can go and kill yourself, and there are a
Mhm.
whole bunch of them running around Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
And
We just had a tragedy happen right near where we live. Actually, we found out, or I found out through the local news, that somebody had jumped off of a bridge over one of the rivers and committed suicide. So it's happening more lately today than
yeah,
any other
yeah,
time in history, to tell you the
yeah,
truth.
yeah. We have people who are jumping in front of trains. They got all kinds of things. Like, people find any way to do it, right? They jump off buildings, like where I used to live. They jumped off the condo.
Mm.
18 people in total, right? Yeah. And
Wow.
that's why we had to move. We had to move. We had to move. We had to get out of there. It was
Yeah.
not a place to raise your children, and yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's one thing that I've come to realize too, is when you have a lot of negativity in a certain area,
Yeah,
you're gonna have a lot more supernatural and paranormal activity.
yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of people, they claim they see Bigfoot and Dogman and all that in graveyards and all that around here, and I don't doubt that, because
Mm-hmm.
when we as native people, sometimes when we lose what's sacred to us, like take the Black Hills for instance, where Mount Rushmore is in
Mm-hmm.
America, with
Mhm.
what I call the four worst Indian hating presidents in the history of the human race.
Mm-hmm.
um, which used to be our burial grounds and our sacred grounds to do
Yeah,
Humblatia, our vision quests and stuff.
yeah,
We were really connected to that land. Well,
yeah.
when they took that from us because they found gold there in the rivers and streams,
Mm,
um,
yeah,
we basically used our medicine to
yeah.
not really curse the land, but to
No.
to make it less habitable for them,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual wise. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of this is manifestation that people are seeing in
Mm-hmm.
certain areas that were deemed sacred to the
Mm-hmm.
native people.
And you don't mess with it. That's the thing. You learn to appreciate and respect it more, but you don't mess with it. That's
Yep,
and
exactly.
then, and if you do, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, some people don't understand that this whole
No.
the whole country of where the United States is and
Yeah.
Canada and even Mexico is such a
Uh-huh.
blood-stained land. You know, so
Yeah.
much tragedy happened in this land.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got these corridors in this land, areas
Mm.
in this land, in this country where
Yeah.
there's so much negativity and spiritual, supernatural activity and
Mm.
paranormal activity that people just don't understand why it's there. And the reason
Mm.
being is because you've got the blood-stained land from
Mhm.
not only when our ancestors were killed on the land.
Mhm.
At one time there was over 550 native tribes in North America,
Mhm.
and now there's barely 300.
Mhm.
That's whole generations just completely wiped clean
Mhm.
from Mother Earth, and
Mhm.
that kind of tragedy is going to bring back a lot of negative energy.
Yeah. And you know, when when you have people saying, "Well, we're gonna build this on that, we're gonna build that on that," and then my friends on the same thing. She's also half Cherokee, and she lives on her father's property, and they're building uh bike trails on the next property next over, and that whole property is all Native American burial ground. And yeah, you have to like and everything. And I said, you know that it's gonna fall apart, right? Bad things are gonna happen. She goes, yeah, I know. Let it
Yeah,
rip. She's saying, and I said, yep. There's a shame
yeah,
on them.
yeah.
And they chop down the trees, and they chop down the trees on her land. And she told them, get out of my land. And it's sad. It's so
Yeah,
sad,
yeah.
And they're doing dumb things. Can't believe it.
The first time
In
I saw a
Japan,
shadow figure here, I was so confused. I'm not used to just standing and staring. I
yeah.
thought I was
Uh-huh.
losing my mind, but luckily I had my dog with me and she was also reacting to it. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, my dog
So
sees
you,
this, so it's
yep,
there.
Yeah.
yep, yeah, exactly. And that's something too that people got to take in consideration when your young children see things and talk to things and beings that you don't see, and your animals, your pets react to things that you don't see,
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they're making it up. It means
No.
that there's things in our visual field and our audio field of hearing and seeing things that we don't
Mhm.
understand and we
Yeah.
can't even see or hear.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time around us.
Yeah. Um, it, Here, land is so precious, right? But they used to have the people who owned the land. They had stuff on it.
Hmm.
They used to keep it in the family and not develop it. But since the taxes have gone up in Japan, you have the property tax, inheritance tax too in here in this country, and people are finding that they can't keep the land because the taxes have gone up like
Yeah,
really
so
bad.
high. Yeah, yeah.
And so
That's the same way here.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's the
they
same way
sell, so
here.
they yeah, so they have to sell the land, and developers are making apartments, this really expensive apartments on it. And guess what? It's haunted, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Good luck with that
yeah.
one. So they got samurai warriors walking through the walls and going in, they're half chopped from here up, right? They've got a
Hmm.
face, and they're walking through the walls, and it's just, yeah, it's
Well, I think it all reflects back to if you look at the history of Japan
yeah,
and the samurais, you there was a connection there, just like there is with the Native Americans in the land.
yeah,
They had a respect for everything. Also, everything
yeah,
had honor, and everything was done in an honorable way.
yeah,
And I think as mankind progressed with technology,
mm,
mankind kind of got away from that,
yeah,
honorable way of doing things.
yeah, yeah. And it's really sad. They just unearthed a whole bunch of bones near the beach, where not too far from the temple, that the Shinto shrine that I go to.
Hmm.
And they just unearthed like heads and bodies and skeletal remains, but they're not gonna give them a ceremony. They're gonna put them all in a museum under lock
Uh,
and key. I said, that's sad. I said,
yeah,
that's sad. I mean,
yeah,
they don't belong under lock and key in a
yeah,
stupid museum.
yeah,
They
yeah. That's
belong,
true.
yeah, they belong. They should have a proper Buddhist ceremony and lay them to rest. That's what I said. But the government's not going to do that. They're gonna study them and put them in a stupid dumb museum. I said, oh God, that's sacrilegious. I thought.
Yeah, yeah. They
I always
the whole yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I always found it funny that people's solution to a haunted building or a house is we're going to tear it down and build a new house. Like that's going to fix the issue.
Yeah,
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 yeah. And
well,
then usually when they build that new house, they build it on the same foundation area that the original
yeah,
place was built on, and
yeah.
that opens up a
Yeah.
lot of doorways too to the supernatural and
Mhm.
paranormal.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like it's the land. It's just because you got rid of the building doesn't mean it's still not attached to the land.
yeah.
It's just you gave it a new building
Exactly.
to roam around.
Yeah.
My
Exactly.
my son's school is really haunted, right? They had a well. They opened up the well, let the spirit out. So the spirit now haunts the school. And the same school my son, it's a high school. My son goes to that high school. And it used to be a farmland. Yeah. I said, you, and what they did was they left the well in place in the middle of the museum, in the middle of
Yeah.
the gymnasium. And I said, oh God, I would like this. And I went to the school. I went to the ceremony. The school that he just got. He passed his exams. He got into it, and I said, "Okay, this is not good. This is not good." And I saw her taunting this man. I said, "Yeah, you can't do this here. Okay, you gotta go." She goes, "Why? I like doing this. This guy is so scared of me. I'm having fun." I said, "You're not gonna do this. You're not gonna have fun. Get the heck out of here, or else I'm gonna banish you." And she goes, "Well, okay, but I'll leave, but I'll come back." And I said, "Yeah, I know you will." Uh, it's just like, dang. That's one of the best good places to investigate, but I don't think they'll let us in. But
Yeah, there's a lot of schools that actually have a lot of activity
yeah,
all over the world. You see
yeah,
them all the time, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's like the reason why there's a lot of activity in Japan is because if bullying was a really big problem, and the students used to commit suicide, so they jump off the school and kill
mm,
themselves. So
mm.
yeah, there's a lot of that happening. So the schools are old and they still stand there, and yeah, it's just like unbelievable. Like
Yeah,
there's
so Japan, for out there, for people who don't know, Japan being a mostly Buddhist country,
yeah,
the Buddhists believe that if you're not happy in this life, you can unalive yourself
mhm,
and start again
mhm,
in the next life.
yeah.
Right.
So they believe
Yeah.
in reincarnation.
So
Yeah,
every time we tell that to people, they're like, "Well, that seems extreme." I'm like, "Well, that's the belief here that they can
mm,
believe
Yeah.
themselves to start again in the next life."
yeah,
Well, if you know, if you noticed anything too, though, a lot of the near death experiences, I've had three of them actually, from two of them from cancer, and one when I was 3 years old. I was um, picking chestnuts with my sister from a chestnut tree, and group of teenagers came up and basically put the boots to me, and I was 3 years old. I mean, what are you going to do against teenagers, you know?
yeah.
So I basically had a near-death experience from that, and I remember seeing the darkness and then seeing the light. You know how they say there's always like a light that you see way off in the distance. Well, my grandmother told me that it wasn't my time, and she turned me around, and I saw a universe behind me.
Mm-hmm,
And she said, "You're going to realize that when it comes time, you're going to have a choice. You're going to
mm-hmm,
have a choice to go to the light, or you're going to have a choice to go to the universe, where you came from originally." So I mean, the reincarnation thing is not that far off from what I've experienced through the NDEs. So it really isn't.
Did you develop any supernatural abilities from your near-death experiences?
Oh, I see things all the time. I see things, I hear things. I
Mhm.
literally basically instead of sleeping, I call it dream walking. And I basically walk amongst the stars. Basically, I my dreams are just another form of reality for me to be in super, spiritually. So
Something about near-death experiences, majority of people after that all of a sudden has some kind of gift
mhm,
with the
yeah,
other side.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it turned mine up from like a 4 and a 5 all the way up to a plus 11 on the scale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really tweaked it strong. From having my near death experiences, especially this last one with the cancer. I died on the operating table. I was going through a 9-hour surgery to have the cancer removed, and they literally had to basically massage my heart to get it going again.
Mm.
I was gone for a period of about a minute and a half. So, and that whole thing, seeing your body and experiencing, hearing everybody and all that is exactly what I experienced.
Mhm.
And when I came back, I knew that cancer wasn't going to kill me. I knew that I came back for a reason,
Mhm.
and pretty much I've been trying to explain to people what life is all about.
Mhm.
It's not about the haves and the have-nots. It's about the experiences you have. It's the whether you can love unconditionally and the whole 9 yards. So
Yeah. Mm.
So I've asked someone this before. I'm kind of curious on your answer too. So I used to live in Montana, and
mhm,
near me there was an Indian reservation. There was some,
mhm,
especially like the older ones,
mhm,
still was more true to the Indian culture than obviously like the younger ones. The younger, the older ones would point to certain areas of the mountains and be like, "Don't go over there. There's evil," but they never
mhm.
said what it was. I don't know because like that's the only thing they would say. I don't know because I wasn't like Native
Well,
American or
right. A lot of the time, though, when we say stuff like that, we have to use generalities because if we say it, if we say like the word walker, like say the Dene people, the Navajo people, and the Hopi and Zuni deal with all the time down there. Um, if we say certain things, we open ourselves up to bringing that evil into our lives. So that's why we basically just generalize it as that's an evil area or that's this
Mhm.
bad medicine. Stay away from it. You know. So
Yeah, I always wondered what it was. Dude, I don't think it's skinwalkers due to the fact that it wasn't really in the area. And I think everyone assumes skinwalkers if it's Indian. And I don't think that's fair to say that if an Indian says or a Native American says there's evil, I don't think it's fair to say it has to be a skinwalker. That's the only thing part of their,
right.
I guess, culture.
Unfortunately, the way the internet is going, and my brother Ryan's in the chat, he can tell you himself that the way the internet is going right now, and they're labeling everything a skinwalker, okay, and it's not that at all. There's a
Mhm.
difference between a Wendigo and a skinwalker. There's a difference between a shapeshifter and a skinwalker,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
There's differences to them. One
Yeah.
is black medicine, the dark arts, okay, and the other is more of a paranormal type of a thing where they can physically do a change. So
Mhm.
instead of being basically possessed by something to change. So,
Yeah, people want to always we have yeah, but people always want to. A lot of the urban legends here in Japan
Mhm.
are said to be able to change their appearance from the original form to like a beautiful woman. So
Mhm.
everyone always wants to classify them as a shapeshifter, and it's like they don't consider it a shapeshifter; they consider it a separate thing. And I'm like, it's not
Mhm.
Right.
fair to say everything's just because it changed, it has to be a shapeshifter.
Exactly. Exactly. Not everything is paranormal too. Not everything is supernatural.
No.
Yeah,
And I think the problem right now with what we have going on is there's so many people that are so excited about trying to prove themselves in this field of
Mhm.
study, whether it's supernatural or cryptid creatures or whether it's the paranormal field. They want to make themselves known, and
Mhm.
I think that in itself is the heart of a lot of the problem with
Yeah.
misidentification and mislabeling something.
Yeah.
You can't go into a location of a haunted place and say, this is a demon, that's a demon, this is a demon, that's a
Yeah.
demon. Not
exactly.
everything is a demon.
Yeah,
Not
No.
everything is demonic,
No. No.
and we need to have these up and coming investigators and researchers
Mhm.
realize that there is a difference,
Yeah.
and unfortunately they're just not doing it.
Yeah. And a lot of times that they're newbies, right? And they go into place and they say, "Oh, this is cool." They have no idea how to prepare themselves to go in a haunted place,
Hmm.
and they come out like, "Damn, I got an attachment," or something stupid happens. And I said, "Okay, what the heck did you do? Like, where did you go? Like, really?"
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And then I end up chewing them up for doing something stupid, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did a haunted objects podcast about a week ago, a few
Hmm.
days ago, and one of the things that I tell people, that I found out through all of my years is that you know back when I was a child, they didn't really have a lot of toys or
No.
names for dolls or action figures and stuff
yeah,
until like the 70s,
Yeah.
and so basically if we name something, our words have power. Our
Yeah.
words have meaning, okay?
Yeah.
And if we get like take a Susie Peas a lot, okay? And we name her, we give her a name like Elizabeth and give her a reason for existing,
Mhm.
we're opening up that object, that inanimate object, to being
Mhm.
an immortal object, to
Mhm.
be possessed or taken over by some kind of an entity.
Mhm.
Okay. The same thing goes when people name their vehicles, people name their furniture, their antique furniture. It's ridiculous because everybody needs to realize that words have power,
Yeah.
and
mhm,
out of those words, when you address something, I'm not saying that we can make inanimate objects come to life like the Lazarus effect, but we give them acknowledgement on these non-animate objects,
Mhm.
and we give the darker, evil malevolent spirits an opportunity to possess that doll or that action figure or that piece of antique furniture, or that car. So
Yeah.
that's just one thing that I've learned in almost 60 plus years. So
Second. Sorry. That's front door.
that is so. Yeah, I think it's one of the beliefs here, though, that especially with dolls, a lot of people believe that if Irene, they treat it like a person, it kind of takes over its own little thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the belief
And
here
you
too.
and you never give a doll bigger than your child in Japan.
right,
It,
yeah,
it's just something. It's a no-no in this country, and
right,
yeah. And doll makers in Japan are infertile because what they do is they create children so they cannot have children of their own. It's just a saying in Japan that that's what happens in this country. And yeah, dolls have a habit of um, coming alive in their own
hmm,
way. And
yep,
even if you have a stuffed animal, you always treat it with respect. You never put it in a plastic bag because they can't breathe.
All right.
If you're gonna put it away, put it in a a a, a bag that's made out of cloth, and
Right.
you can put away there in that way. But you have
Right.
to always treat them with respect, because if
Right.
you don't, they can be very angry with you. And
Right.
it's just, yeah, simple stuff like that. People say, "Oh, okay." I put all my kids' stuffed animals in like a big huge garbage bag, and I put it in the closet. Yeah, you can't do that. Sorry, you know.
Yeah. 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 True. I mean, you got to treat everything with respect, because it's
Yeah,
like the old Native American saying, we're all part of the web of life. What we do to the web, we do to ourselves.
yeah, yeah,
And that's literally how you have to live your life. You
yeah,
have to have a reverence for everything, and walk upon the land like, instead of like you own it, like it's gifted to you,
yeah,
instead of owning it,
yeah.
So, but that, yeah, as long as we live our lives in that manner,
Mhm.
we're going to be a lot better off come time when we leave this body in this world.
Yeah, yeah.
So that
And
all
another,
comes back to the nobility thing, being the honorable person, and the way of living,
mhm.
You also
I
can't give a child a doll the size of them or bigger, because it will take over.
yeah,
Mm,
it'll take
Something
over
will
them,
happen to your child and it will take over.
and the
yeah.
child will die eventually, and the doll will take over the spirit. The doll will have a spirit entity in it, and it will live through the child. The entity will live through the doll, or the person. It's just, yeah, that's what happens in this
See,
country.
that's kind of like the Amish here in America. Here the
Yeah.
Amish, they don't put faces on their dolls. They don't put eyes or a mouth on their dolls. They're
Mhm.
Mhm.
completely faceless. They have no expression, because
Yeah.
they feel that that's going to warrant that doll to actually have something bad attached to it. Um,
Yeah.
take for instance, there was a friend of ours, that was Amish, from Pennsylvania, and he was a craftsman. He did a lot of beautiful furniture and stuff, and he basically passed it on, to his children, and his youngest son was like 30 years old or something like that, and he had his father, who was my friend, basically unalived himself. Okay,
hmm
and the Amish feel that when you do that, you have to literally just get rid of everything that person owned.
hmm
So they took it to his son,
hmm
all the furniture and stuff in the house, and everything to his son to dispose of.
hmm
Well, he made it into other furniture. Okay. You see,
mm
you see where I'm going with this, right? It's
Yeah.
hmm
the people came, and they paid money for the furniture, or bartered with the furniture, to get the furniture, because this guy made beautiful furniture, and
hmm
he didn't tell anybody that it was made from his father's, you know, furniture from his house. And
mm
eventually, people started having weird stuff happening in their houses and stuff around the Amish community.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another,
mm
and finally they all came back with and started bringing the furniture back to him. And one of the elders, the Amish elders, basically confronted him and said, where'd this wood come from? And he told them, he said, well, I made it out of my father's wood. And he said, you can't do that. He says, you need to dispose of it.
Yeah.
So what he did is he took all the furniture back that he had sold,
mm
and put it all in a pile. And he basically burned it all right there in a pile.
hmm
And where the burn pit was, he planted a tree over it.
hmm
Okay. Now, the reason they do that is because it seals the ground from having anything come out.
hmm
Okay. So he planted the tree over it, but to this day, that tree does not grow any leaves.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
it's a mature tree. It's
Yeah.
literally a mature tree, but it
Yeah.
doesn't grow any leaves.
Yeah. I
And it's a
get that.
healthy tree,
Yeah, and it's a
besides
healthy
not
tree. Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get
It'll
that
get the
too.
buds. It'll get the buds on the branches and stuff, but it won't actually sprout leaves.
Yeah. I get that
That's
too.
kind of similar to here, where even like our thrift stores, It's basically thrift stores are just like old clothing. Like you can't get other items. There's no estate sales. It's just because
No.
any other belongings have to stay within the
Mhm.
family.
Yeah,
Right.
you
Okay.
cannot.
I see.
They don't have estate sales. They don't have estate jewelry. You just can't do that. I mean, if you have something that you bought that you don't need, you could sell it. Yeah, you could put it in the thrift store, but you cannot. If something belonged to your grandmother or something belonged to your grandfather, you have to keep it in the family.
Right.
You're not allowed
Exactly.
to sell it. You're not allowed to sell it. It's just a no-no in this country.
Yeah.
And you,
Well, see, that's kind of like us too, being Native American here in the States. You
yeah,
know, when we become unalive,
mm-hmm,
okay,
yeah,
when we become unalive,
Thank you,
our
social
family
media, for that.
has permission to give away our things to everybody, not to sell it, but to give it away in a
mm-hmm,
good way. And
mm-hmm,
as long as they accept it in a good way, then nothing bad's going to happen.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, so because our sacred objects get passed down to our children,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so our medicine bundles and stuff like that we have and our pipes, those all get passed down to our children to take it
yeah,
over after we're gone.
yeah.
So
Oh, yuck. Eek. Yeah. There's one thing that I have really bad trouble with is that after the war, when Japan lost the war, soldiers came into people's houses. They took artifacts that belonged to the family, including samurai swords and stuff like that, and
mhm,
they go bring it back to America. And guess what? It's haunted, right? Of course, it's
yeah,
gonna be haunted. Like,
yeah,
and they said, "Well, we have to put salt on blah blah blah." I said, "Why don't you just give it back to the country?" And
yeah,
yeah, uh,
Just
uh
because so many people want haunted objects from Japan. You and I
yeah.
ran into that, Irene, where people are begging us to send them haunted stuff from Japan. The
I said,
problem
"No,
is, especially around that time, they don't like Americans.
no,
So
right,
people who do bring stuff or get haunted items from those spirits who don't like Americans all of a sudden end up in America, they
yeah,
go
yeah,
crazy because they're in the
yeah.
worst place possible to them.
yeah,"
That's
and
why I tell people not to pick up anything from a Native American burial ground or
Yeah,
a an archaeology dig where they're digging up our bones and stuff from the past, our ancestors'
yeah,
bones,
yeah,
and you tell them not to remove anything from the earth because we're made of the earth. We come from the earth and we return to the earth.
yeah.
That's the way it is.
It's
And
it's just
for them to take something is going to basically it's like the curse of the mummy. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
there's only going to be bad things happening.
yeah. And that's what I said. They said, "Oh, send me a haunted doll." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm
No,
not gonna
because it's gonna go
get."
more crazy in the U.S. because
Yeah,
it left
Mm,
Japan and wants to go back.
yeah.
right,
You just you
right,
you just don't. People just don't realize it. They said, "I want a haunted object from Japan." I said, "No, you're not. Send me something." I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "I'm not going to do it. I refuse
yeah,
to do it." And they don't get it, right? They don't understand it. It's just, yeah, it's beyond their comprehension.
right,
No, I'm not doing
exactly,
that. And it's just like how am I going to get through to them and tell them that you can't do that? And I won't do that.
right,
And they
right,
said, "Oh, come on, you can do that." I said, "No, I'm not." You know, mm-mm.
yeah.
I
You
ref-
got to have a respect. You got to have a respect for the culture and the stuff
yeah,
around the world, and
yeah,
for
Going with
people to want wanted objects is just wrong.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
going
That
with this comment here, it's amazing how many, because I know people who do house cleansings and they say it's amazing how many cleansings that they do. That's it's not something that's attached to the land or the person. It's because they were
of
in
an
a
item,
they were in an abandoned building and they just happened to take a cool object as a
yeah,
souvenir, or
yeah,
even they
yeah,
went to like Goodwill and bought something from the thrift store, and whatever spirit was attached to that obviously came with the object. They're like, there's so many.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, so many. This is why a lot of people who do cleansings are just like, I can't go to Goodwill or the estate sales to buy anything from
Yeah.
garage sales because how many cleansings I've done because of
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
Because someone was
Yeah.
kept
Yep.
to that item.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And here in the States, we have the national parks on the West Coast. There's a ghost town that the National Parks Department owns, and the federal lands. And they tell people all the time, don't take things from this ghost town because only bad things are going to happen. Well,
Yeah.
here's all these people are taking these, whether it's a rock or a piece of broken glass or whatnot, they're taking all these objects home, but yet about a couple weeks later, they're mailing those objects back to the parks department at that park with a note saying how sorry they are, and they took this home and they don't want it anymore because their house burned down, or they lost all the money in their bank account. That kind of stuff was happening. So I mean, people don't understand what's attached to certain objects.
Yeah. You have to respect. You have to leave it there and not touch it. I even said don't touch it. Like, don't even mess with it. And, yeah, it's just something that you're not supposed to do. And people, they're curious, right? They're curious in a bad way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I always assumed it was an unwritten rule in a paranormal community that if you're urbexing, you don't take objects from the location. But then I'm finding more and more that people are just like, I took this as a souvenir. I took this painting from this abandoned mansion. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But you're also taking stuff, as people say, for people to discover going to that location.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it goes back to what we said earlier too on your program. It comes back to a lot of these people that are taking these things are novice. They're not in the field, long enough to understand the connection. And they're taking this stuff on a whim, and they're finding out that it's nothing but bad mojo.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because they also want to be able to brag to their friends. Look at this haunted painting I have. Look at this
Oh,
haunted novel I have. I got it from this location. And
I said, why'd you do that?
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
how stupid that sounds? Like, it's like some places in Japan, like, I pick and choose where I want to go. I do that very carefully because I see what I feel and what I feel and what I see. If I don't like it, I said, no, I'm not going to go there. And it's like, why don't you go there? I said, you going? Are you coming with me? They said, no, I'm not going there. Then why do you expect me to go there, right? I said, no thanks. Because there's some houses that are really haunted that you shouldn't go to because things happened. And you see it on YouTube where these dumb, stupid young people, Japanese young people, okay, they go to this particular place because it's haunted, right? They don't know anything what the heck they're doing. They go there, and one of the guys gets really sick. He says, I'm going to go to the hospital. And after the video was put up, they said this guy died the next day. So they're putting him, so he's in a box now, right? They're having his funeral the next day. And I said, why'd you upload it on YouTube? Like, there's tons of haunted videos in Japan about haunted places in Japan. And my son, who's also he's also an empath, clairvoyant, he said, don't watch this video, don't watch that video, and don't watch that video. I said, okay, I won't. And I said, tell me why? And he goes, because bad things happen to you if you watch it. And you could die. And I said, okay, I'm not gonna watch it. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
And
Never mess with the Wanagis. Never mess with them.
And people ask me, well, since you have your Paranormal Japan group, why don't you post haunted videos about Japan? I said, I'm not doing it.
It's not like that though.
No.
Yeah, it's not like that in Japan though. Anybody that's been to Japan knows, that it's based on an honor system.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
showing video of a haunted place, you're dishonoring that place. And
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose of the way the Japanese people live their life, is an honorable manner, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that's
But
sad too, because a lot of the young people, even here in the States, you know, they don't follow that belief from their
no.
elders, you know, and they should.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a yeah. And I said, nah, I'm not posting it. They said, why not? It's so cool. You got a really good, cool haunted country. I said, I know, I live here, but I'm being responsible. They said, oh, come on. That's silly. I said, no, it isn't. I said, okay, I'm not
Right.
going to explain to you. I have no time for you. I have no time to explain it to you, and I'm not going to do it. And then I'm responsible for what I post in my group, right? So I'm not going to do something stupid and post something dangerous that could
Right.
unalive you, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
and it's just indiscriminately so stupid. Some people, and yeah, and it's, well, I got my crystals, I got blah blah blah. I said, yeah, that's not gonna work either, because that's not gonna help you, you know. And yeah, don't bother. I said, I'm not gonna do it. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do it. And they said, you're now fun. I said, no, I'm being responsible, okay? Because I'm responsible for whatever I put up there. And if you don't like
Exactly.
it, then you can leave. I don't care, right? It's my group. It's what I do, and everyone else can post whatever haunted videos that they do, and everyone else can post whatever investigations they want to. That's fine. You could do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry.
Right.
And yeah, eventually they leave, and I said, "Oh, okay, fine, leave. I don't care. Like, I don't really need you." Like, ugh,
Right.
it,
Yeah.
Just
so
FYI, everyone out there who assumes because the spirits in another country they cannot visit you. Trust me
yeah,
when I say this. Here in Japan, I've had American spirits visit me, so that is absolutely not true. They can visit you anywhere in the world.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole point of being in the spirit world is for our spirits to travel and to experience things in that world too. Just like it's our experiences in this world that defines where we go in the next, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And it's like I've always said, and it's like Ryan, you know, knows, and several other people, Uncut Savage in the chat, and Eric know, that it's that walk in beauty, that good red road that we're supposed to guidance ourselves on,
Mm-hmm.
and interact with reverence for everything, and being humble, or you know, humble in every manner, in every
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
and respecting, you know, certain things in this life, because it's only going to help you in the next.
Yeah.
So, and you know, for to say that spirits can't go from America to Japan is
Or
not
even vice
true at
versa.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can go wherever they want to and however they want
Oh,
to.
that's definitely true here, Poncho. There's a lot
Yeah.
of World War
Yeah.
II
Yeah.
hauntings here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's apparently there's a park that's on the western part. No, I'm on the eastern part. And it's on the same, it's not too, it's about a couple hours away from Tokyo. They made a park out of it, okay? But there's a beach that's attached to it. The beach
Hmm.
is extremely haunted, and you can't go there after 9 o'clock. If you go there after 9 o'clock, they will not find any piece of you, not even a body, nothing.
Yeah.
They'll just take you. And yeah, and that's why the parks always have locks and chains on it after 9 o'clock. It's a too. It's
Hmm.
just a gorgeous park, but apparently they had yeah, after World War II, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
yeah.
heard, yeah, I also was doing some research into the Solomon Islands and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
during World War II, how when the Marines landed there at Guadalcanal,
Mm-hmm.
to take back the island, that there were Japanese soldiers running towards the shore,
Mm-hmm.
because they were scared of what was hunting them in the woods that they were
Yeah.
hiding in.
Yeah.
And you know, that story came right from my father, and from
Mm-hmm.
research, you know,
Yeah.
from World War II. And
Yeah.
here the Japanese soldiers that ran to the Americans for cover, to be
Mhm.
helped. They basically were telling the Americans that there were these red-haired giants that
Mhm.
were traveling under tunnels under the
Mhm.
water, going
Mhm.
from island to island and
Mhm.
killing them and eating them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't know, to this day, that's still something that's talked about
Yeah.
in the Solomon Islands.
There's another place that my daughter went for a 3 days resort
Yeah.
for her high school. It's called Ogasawara Island. It's part of Tokyo, but they found a whole bunch of soldiers' skeletal remains. So you can't get there unless you're on a boat. It takes 2 days to get there by boat. But they're
Yeah.
using government has authorized a helicopter to bring the bones back to Tokyo, so they can be processed properly and given back to the families. It's like
Right.
whole the whole it's all sandy beaches. The whole beach is riddled with bones, and it's just. I bet you that place is extremely haunted. That's one place I want to visit. Just where the curiosity kills a cat, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, you
There's
pretty much know a lot of your, I want to say, conspiracy theories and urban legends, right? I know he posts a lot of them in his podcast.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable, and they're just finding it now. These little islands of all over Japan who had probably military activity a long time ago with soldiers, and they're finding their it's you think Okinawa's haunted, you should see it. I bet you these whole islands are all haunted too.
well,
It's
yeah,
They
and it's all
they just, with the history, they said Okinawa was supposed to be the most haunted place
yeah,
in
yeah,
Japan.
and
So.
it's all because of the blood-soaked lands.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
so much tragedy that happens on these lands.
yeah,
So much blood stains and stuff from past civilizations.
yeah.
And civilization is built on top of civilization.
Hmm.
Literally, and
Yeah,
you can only have so much blood-soaked land until it becomes negative and starts to give a negative effect
yeah,
on the supernatural and the paranormal.
yeah. You know stuff happened a long time ago. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad stuff that happened, and yeah, you can't change what history happened here, and you're not gonna sugarcoat it either. I don't sugarcoat it. I tell it how it is and what it is, and you can tell me how savage it was and how nasty it was. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's history, right? And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you have to respect it. No matter how you feel, no matter how nasty you think it is, you have to respect it. And
right.
yeah, and you know what? Japan was not the only country. I mean, you look at old countries like England and other places like that has a lot of Scotland has a lot of history. Yeah, bad things happen there too, but you can't say, yeah, well, Japan is blah 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 and that's savage and that's disgusting. I said, look at these other places, right? Just
Yeah,
don't badmouth it because you don't like it, right?
exactly. Yeah,
And
and the more you badmouth it, the more it's gonna be acting in a negative way towards you too. That's another
and
thing
it'll
that
come after you. It could come and
yeah,
get you, and you don't know what the heck happened to you, or you don't know why you got sick, or you don't know whatever. And I said, yeah, they're always hearing. That's why my mother always said, always respect the dead, because the
yeah,
dead can hear and see everything, and they can come after you if you're not respect if you don't
right.
respect it. Yep.
I want
And
to say I want to say thank you to Brett though for that super sticker for you guys. That's nice, Brett. Thank you very much, brother. It's great to have you on there in the chat. I see everybody in the chat. I just I
yeah,
want to say hello to
yeah.
everybody, but they all know I love them. So you know
It's just one of those things. Um, William, I want to tell you something. Okay, we have a lot of earthquakes in Japan. Okay, we
hmm
get big ones too. We get really
hmm
bad ones too. Um, bad worst one was the New Year's Day in Japan. I didn't hear anything about that one yet, but the one in Fukushima happened, and they had a
hmm
tsunami. But everyone looked at the sky, everyone took pictures of the sky because Fukushima had the biggest nuclear reactor there. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and we still have one. Okay, we're still using nuclear power. Because we have typhoons and everything, and the island can be very vicious. Okay,
Right.
um, apparently, well, guess what? The sky had lots of UFOs flying around when
Yeah,
there's a bad
I
earthquake.
also, yeah, I heard also that when the Fukushima power plant went down, that there was actually a Mothman sighting too that was
Yeah, yeah,
located in the sky. That
yeah,
somebody saw something like a Mothman.
Recently, Mothman has also been seen in South America. So that's why people think there's either multiple types of whatever the Mothman is, whatever the creature is,
hmm
or he can
yeah,
open portals and travel to whichever part of not just United States, sorry, the world he
Right.
wants to, obviously, since
yeah.
he's been in Japan and South America. So
Right. Yeah. And
And
I honestly think that he is probably more of an offspring from the
mhm,
fallen angels is my
mhm,
theory on that.
mhm,
Um, because of his supernatural abilities of
mhm,
being able to communicate with people through their minds, the mind
yeah,
speak,
yeah,
and all the hauntings that come along with
mhm,
the stories of the Mothman.
mhm,
So I think he is more supernatural than he is physical, but
mhm,
he can become physical. He has that
yeah,
ability.
yeah. There's a lot of weird things that happens in this country, and
Yeah.
we've got ghost ships that come up empty. They're all fishing vessels, and the police and the Japanese Coast Guard had to bring them up on the island, and the police department, the police has to make a report of it, but they don't know what to make a report because there's nothing there, right? It's a
Right. Nobody's there.
it's a perfect
Yeah,
chance.
that happens quite a lot. That
Yeah,
happens quite a lot.
yeah,
I don't know I don't know if Japan has like what we call like the Bermuda Triangle here.
we do. We have
Um,
one. We have one.
yeah,
We have a
so
big, huge
yeah,
Bermuda Triangle.
yeah. It's just it's amazing how there's these certain triangles all around the globe
Yeah,
that have these
yeah,
really, really mysterious vanishings happening. I
yeah,
mean, they have a triangle in Australia, they have one in Japan, they have
yeah,
several around America,
yeah,
they're all over the world. And,
yeah.
there's no reason for these people to come up missing. So, obviously they say the UFO thing or alien abduction and all that, it's, but what do you do? Like 1947, 1945 with the airplanes, the airplanes that turned up missing on off of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They never found no airplanes.
No.
So you know if it was still here in this world, you would
Mm-hmm.
think that they would find the remains of the airplanes.
Yeah, and
They haven't been able to find the airplanes.
because they were talking about MH17, the Malaysian airline that disappeared. They can't find
Hmm.
it either, and
Yeah,
they're wondering what the heck happened to that, right? And there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories out there, right? But yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what happened to it because,
yeah, yeah. So would I.
yeah,
I would like
it's
to know what happened to it, only because of the families of the victims, from it,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. But
so they can get
there's a
closure.
lot of weird things that happens.
yeah,
And,
one of them is here.
yeah, and all over Asia too. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of crazy supernatural stuff that happens all over
Yep.
this side of the island, and it's yeah, it's something that has to be studied, but be very careful where you walk. That's all I'm gonna say to that one.
Right.
I think just
Yep.
besides
Exactly.
the history of Japan, I think it's also becoming haunted due to the energy coming in. I don't know what I can't speak for any other country, but I know seeing it here in America, someone first warned me when I came here. They said you're going to start looking at Americans and say, fucking Americans, like you're not one. They're like, it doesn't make
Right.
sense now, but
Yeah.
it will. And if it doesn't make sense, you're one of them and you're the problem. And what
Yeah.
they mean by that is, I do find myself saying fucking Americans with the Japanese around me, like I'm not one of them.
No.
And it's because it's for some odd reason people come to Japan and they think because they're in another country, they act more disrespectfully here because like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not gonna get back home. And I
Yeah.
tell people, like, it is amazing. The best example I can think of to put it more in perspective is I'll be in a restaurant with my family. We'll be in one part of the restaurant. They'll be in the other side of the restaurant. And then they just start blaring their music so
Yeah.
loud. I can't even hear the people around me. And people
Yeah.
are like, I've never seen that done here. And I'm like, I've seen that done many times here. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I just feel like people come here and like, I'm in another country. I can do what I want. So they just kind
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
get more disrespectful. So they're bringing all that
Exactly.
disrespectful energy in.
Yep. Now you know how
And
the native people feel here.
Yeah, that's probably, I can see that because we're just like, seriously?
Yeah.
I was like, that is rude in America. That's extra rude here. The Japanese people tend to be more quiet
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
soft spoken compared
Yeah.
to Americans. Mine is Irene. Irene
Yeah.
is different. Irene has no problem telling you what's on her mind. I was like, mine is Irene. Don't look at Irene thinking she's normal. She's not.
No.
They're here in
Not.
Japan. Mine is Irene. They are not
Yep.
confrontational. They're soft spoken and they're more quiet. So usually you're on public transportation or in a restaurant, they're more quiet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then Americans come in and they start getting loud, they start getting rude, they start getting demanding. I'm like, this is the energy they're bringing in. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, this is also why they're starting to hate us over here. And I get it because I'm like, I hate them.
Exactly.
I hate them.
Exactly.
Y'all must
Yeah.
really hate
Back.
them, where it's extra rude.
Yeah.
And I'll
Back in
turn
the
around and I'll
70s.
tell them.
Yeah.
I'll tell them you're being
Back in the
asshole.
70s here in the
Yeah.
States. Yeah. Back here in the 70s in the States, I was part of the American Indian movement, and we were a very an in-your-face type of a Native American movement at the time. We were actually the ones that held the 30-30 rifles against the U.S. Military, National Guard, and all that.
Mhm.
And I was in it all the way up until the 1990s,
Mhm.
and it was, something that we always tried to say
Mhm.
to the people that go on the reservations and stuff, and make fun of how the native people live, and make fun of Native American ceremonies and Native American names, and oh, you got hair like a girl, and all this. Well, the last thing that we had to be proud of being Native American in the States was our hair, and
Mhm.
that's why we don't cut our hair.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the same with, I think it's the same with the samurai too. They took pride in their hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of indigenous cultures around the world, that's the only thing they got to hold on to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much disrespect that we were given, in the 70s, we fought back.
Yeah.
We literally fought back. We had enough.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you can take a race of people and treat them like animals, no better than a bear or a wolf or a fox, that's out in the woods that you hunt, than than anything. And it's degrading. And they finally they realized, the U.S. government realized, not too long ago, as a matter of fact, that they did a grievous injustice to the native people here, the indigenous people of the land. And you still see it on reservations. You still have reservations that have the biggest drug problems, the biggest alcohol rates, the biggest areas where there's unaliving themselves.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
they put us on these little places of land and expect us to stick to our culture when they wiped out our culture.
Yeah.
Some of us older ones, us older elders, we we embrace our traditions. You know, we
Yeah.
try to pass it down to the younger generation.
Yeah.
The younger generation doesn't want to be called Indian anymore. They don't want to be
No.
called Native American
No.
because it's cooler to be in a gang or you know to be white than it is to
Yeah.
be Native American.
Yeah. It's
So
sad. It's
yeah, it
really
is. It's very sad.
It might not just because it's cooler, but because they're treated better
yeah.
identifying as
Yeah.
white than Native
Yeah.
American. Let's just be honest with that though too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've seen I've seen a reservation obviously in Montana. So comparing that to they're a little bit run down,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's probably the government's fault on that one too.
Yeah. Well, when they first stuck us on the reservations, they gave us disease-ridden blankets and rancid meat, you know,
Yeah.
and that was a time frame when they basically obliterated the buffalo, you know,
Mhm.
that our people, you know, relied upon,
Yeah.
you know. So, you know, and they take our sacred lands away from us and our way of life, and it's just, you know, they expect people to thrive on this land that they're given.
Yeah.
And it's not that way at all. You know, you can't thrive on something that you're given in that manner because it wasn't done in an honorable manner anyways. You
Yeah.
know, and we as Native people feel like you don't own the land anyways. We're only
No.
gifted the land to take care of it. And
Yeah.
that's it, you
Yeah.
know? So I don't know.
It's difficult.
Mm,
I mean, the older people used herbs. We still use herbs to feel
mm,
better. Um, they started growing. They started cultivating these herbs, and they put into medicine to make you feel better. I mean, I
mm,
started going back to herbs because doctor's not going to do anything for my leg. So, yeah, I'm
yeah,
back onto herbal medicine. It's expensive, right? But yeah, it works. If it works, I'm gonna use it, right? I'm not gonna I'm not gonna change. And it's just yeah.
yeah.
In Japan, it's like more herbal medicine are used in the hospitals and with physicians than Western medicine. So you'll find a lot of that here in Japan also, and it's just a little bit different in
Right,
this country. And
right.
It's funny because people back in the day, if you were a healer with herbs, you were considered doing witchcraft.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all you're doing. You were just a natural healer.
Mm,
Yeah, see, that's not the way it was with the native people, especially my bloodline. When you were considered a Wachashawakan, a holy man or a medicine man, that was an honorable position to be in
yeah.
amongst the people because you were the healer, you were the one that they come to for advice. You know,
Hmm.
that's why we as a people, when we gather, we sit in a circle
Hmm.
and that circle is a representation of no one being greater than the other. You
Yeah.
know, in other words, the young child next to me has just as much right to speak up about a subject matter we're talking about than I do. You know,
Hmm.
it's just the way of it, you know, and it's the way that life is meant to be, you know. So
In the samurai world, when there were women, okay, who believed in herbs also, but to them, to samurai warriors, and to shogun, if you're a woman, you were called a witch.
hmm,
If you're a man, get your hand off of it. If you're a man, you'd be called a doctor.
hmm,
And things happened to that women who were they're prosecuted, okay, and they're burnt and they're killed at the stake because they use the same medicine as the male doctors did, right? They'd use the same herbs as the male doctor did. And that's the dark part of Japan that nobody wants to talk about. There's no way you'll find it in any books in Japan. You just learn from the elders.
yeah, we didn't have that here in the States back in the days, and even today, we have a lot of women In fact, my own, I call her Grandma Twyla. Um, you know, Knowing her was an honor, and I learned a lot from herbology from her, and dealing with certain ailments and stuff. But here we didn't really look at it in a negative way that women wanted to be medicine healers, because that's an honorable thing to do.
Yeah.
We didn't persecute them.
Yeah.
But then along came a European society
Yeah.
that labeled all of our medicine people, whether they were male or female,
Mhm.
evil,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
basically satanic, because it wasn't done in the way that their churches did
Yeah.
back then. It wasn't their religion.
Yeah.
So
It's funny, because a lot of women now are doctors, and, and ha 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 ha. And you're like saying nothing. There you go, back in
yeah,
your eye, okay? In Japan, it's just like, okay, yeah, you're persecuted women. Now look at what we have now, 20th century. They're
yeah,
all a lot of doctors are all women now. So
yeah,
there you go, and yeah, and they're still, and they've gone back to those herbal medicine, and they've gone back to those things more in Japan, and now there are companies that are making more herbal medicine for for um for for people now, and it's become more popular now, right? So
right,
yeah, and there are medicine now that you can buy. I don't know if it works or not, but they come from a certain plant that can change that can reduce your sugar level if you have diabetes. And there's just so many drug companies that are going back to that now, and their food companies are looking into that now in Japan too, and that's what's being used now, and it's the most popular, but it can be really expensive. If you don't have a pretty penny, you could find yourself in trouble paying
right,
for it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
But but I think people are more interested in changing their body back into herbs than into Western medicine anymore, because this thing doesn't work.
All right. Well, I mean, mainstream medicine is basically I call them the pharmaceutical cartel, basically, because then mainstream medicine wants to get you hooked on pills and stuff,
Hmm.
and instead of healing you.
Hmm.
At
I can see
least
that.
when you deal with the herbalist and the medicine people,
Hmm.
as far as being, the indigenous people, at
Hmm.
least you're going to somebody that wants to heal you and not
Yeah.
get you hooked on
Yeah.
certain medication, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it's an honorable thing. So
Yeah. I agree too.
It's
Um.
it's not just like medicine, but the food, especially in America, that you eat. And I say this because going from American food over there to eating Japanese food here in Japan, they use a lot less sugar. They
Hmm.
also have
mm,
a lot less preservatives than anything. And looking back at it, my family's been less sick since then.
hmm,
And we think it's
yeah,
because
because
of the diet. Because that's the only thing that's really
yeah,
changed is the diet. We're not eating that sugar or those
yeah, you're
preservatives.
not
It's a
putting
way.
those poisons in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not. Yeah, yeah,
And
literally, and
the
it's
laws are
poisonous. I
different.
mean, it's been proven.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The laws are different here. It's more stricter here, and
yeah,
you you know even food, even vegetables, all from the earth, and a lot of them are herbal vegetables that they used long time ago, right? Way in the
yeah,
past, and they still use them now. Except they're really hard to cook with because you have to know how to prepare it before you cook with it, right?
all right,
It's just stuff like that happens. But yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of properties to certain vegetables that are good for this part of the body. They're good for that part of the body, and they're good for the other part of the body. So we eat them as a diet every day, and it seems to work. It seems to work. It's a little bit different in this country, and even with the way they grow them, um, if you have strawberries, they grow them in the wintertime here, and they use them in a hothouse, and they have bees that the farmers can rent from the keepers, and the bees pollinate the flowers in the hothouse for the strawberries, and
Mhm.
they don't sting anybody. They just only pollinate the flowers, and they go back to their hive, and then the beekeepers gather the 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 boxes up, and they bring new ones in. So that's what they do. They have a, I don't know, they have a rapport with them. So
All right.
it's like that in this country, and yeah, certain chemicals are not used. Um, they just don't do that here, and it's just different law. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
And they do differently too in other countries too, other than the U.S. Because even Canada has stricter food controlling laws where they don't put the dyes in food,
Yeah,
and the chemical preservatives in food. And the one thing that I've noticed that with American food is that the more American food you consume, the more chance you have of getting cancers.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
so
Yeah.
Even these same foods that they have in Japan that they have in the United States is made differently. And they say like one
mhm,
of the best examples is Doritos. Yes,
Hmm.
technically they have Doritos here, but they're made differently than in
Yeah,
America. So that's also why they have like a different taste to them because there's
yeah,
yeah,
obviously they can't put a lot of stuff into it.
yeah.
An American just kind of
exactly.
like shoves in the chip.
Yep,
And
exactly.
especially cereal, children's cereal is made in Japan now because they don't use the protected coloring, which is illegal in this country now. So
Hmm.
All
if
right.
you go and buy children's cereal, it's not made like America. It's
Cereal is
Right.
different.
different, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different. You can buy Kellogg's cornflakes here, but it's I tell you, it's going to be made differently than the ones that you get in the United States, right?
Hmm. Exactly. Yep.
It's just another thing is if you're going to buy something that's from America, you're going to have to pay a lot of money to buy it
Yeah.
because consumption tax and the tax for bringing in the country. Yeah, it can get really expensive if you're craving for certain things in Japan, and you have to get used to it. And yeah, you're gonna run out a lot of money too.
Yeah.
I'm so used to it because I can't live without certain things in this country, right? Uh, and I crave for one thing is peanut butter. I can't live without my peanut butter. Yeah, but yeah, it can get really expensive in the Japan, and you
Yeah.
You
gotta be
can't
prepared to.
find
Yeah, you
Mountain
got.
Dew either out there.
Yeah, yeah, and you gotta be prepared to. Yeah, pay a lot of money to buy anything, and and a lot of times they won't go where Amanda is, so you won't find those grocery stores where Amanda lives. You'll find it more where I live, where in Tokyo, where there's a lot of embassies are located, and they'll have this one particular grocery store that sells all that stuff. But prepare to pay because you're gonna have to pay a lot of money because they get shipped from America to Japan, and those are the products are allowed, right?
Yep. True.
Uh, yeah, like Jello
Very.
gelatin, they're
Yep.
it's no longer allowed in this country. Um, Kool-Aid drink, no, you can't buy that here. Certain chocolates you can't buy that here either. Like, yeah, good luck, right?
Well, I mean, you've seen those videos of people putting like an ice cream bar, like a good humor bar or something, on a plate and leaving it out in their kitchen, overnight, and how it doesn't melt.
Yeah,
It doesn't disintegrate into nothing. It's actually like a spongy glue type of a substance, that
yeah,
you get rid of, and
yeah,
that's what we're eating. It's all
yeah,
chemicals.
yeah.
It's not ice
Even
cream. It's not shaved ice and a
yeah,
little bit of salt and sugar and
yeah,
flavoring given. It's
no,
it's not natural anymore.
Yeah.
when look at the whole thing that Bill Gates is doing now too with the on the vegetables and a lot of the fruit now. There's a thing on it. You can look on the stickers on the vegetables and stuff that we have here in the States, and it says a peel. And what it is, it's a chemical substance that they put over the vegetable or the fruit, like
Hmm.
apples and oranges and stuff, and
Hmm.
bananas,
Hmm.
that basically so they don't rot right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. it's 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 hard to understand, but when you come to
There's
Japan, totally different. The way of life is totally different. The rules are totally different. Um, yeah, food,
Mhm.
the
it is
way.
safe to eat raw eggs here, and I looked into this why we can eat raw eggs here. Like if people see videos, people over here eating raw eggs, everyone's just like, "Oh, you get salmonella."
No.
99% of the time, it's not gonna happen over here just because it's so much stricter over here where they say for people who sell eggs, their chickens have to be checked daily for
Hmm.
both viruses and bacteria.
Yeah.
And they say just in
Mhm.
case the eggs also go through like a UV process to still kill anything. So
Yeah.
that's why you can eat raw
Right.
eggs here and it's safe.
Yeah.
All right. See, they won't do that here.
No,
They
that's too
they
much.
actually clean them with a bleach. They use a bleach substance that causes cancer to clean the eggs and disinfect eggs. The best way that we as country folk are have the eggs is not to clean the egg at all, just to leave it
Mm.
natural, and you
Yeah.
can leave it sit outside your refrigerator and it won't go bad for weeks. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, if they just leave well enough alone and let nature take its course, everything
Yeah.
would be fine.
Yeah.
But they can't. They've always got to have the new and improved,
Yeah.
sticker slapped on it.
And this apparent even chicken meat here is totally different too. It's processed totally different too. You won't people say you'll get salmonella poisoning, you get sick, but yeah, you won't
Mm,
do that here. And even fish is processed differently here, right,
yeah.
Amanda? You
Yeah,
won't
everything's
get
processed
sick.
differently here.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
is
There's
processed
there's
differently.
there's restaurants, there's fast food restaurants here that, when you buy a chicken sandwich from them, you're getting a piece of chicken and two pieces of bread,
Hmm.
but yet you're paying for 260 separate chemicals that are in that chicken. And you don't
Mm.
you don't need those chemicals in that chicken. All you need is a
No.
freaking chicken patty and
Mm.
two buns, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Fast
they're putting
food
200.
restaurant
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
tastes
that's
so much better
ridiculous.
here.
Yeah, it's
Fast food
it's,
is
it's
so different
ridiculous
here.
here. Yeah, it's
The-
ridiculous here. It really is.
And we have a law here that it can't stay on the shelf very long. Like I think it's like they have a time stamped on everything, and when it's beyond that time they throw it all in the garbage because they can't risk anybody else getting sick. So
Right.
and the garbage is thrown on with lock and key in it. So yeah,
Right.
it's just totally different here, and yeah, you won't find anything like that here. It's it, the laws are totally different in this country. It's more
Yeah.
strict. It's more strict. Um, it's it's uh, it's really really like people say, well, why do you do that? Isn't that controlling? Isn't that controlling the people? No, it's not controlling the people. It's making sure that you don't get sick, right? You say, well,
Mhm.
Exactly.
that's control. I said, no, it's not. It's not control. Like they're being responsible for you. That's what it means, right?
Fortunately, it makes buying produce over here more expensive than
Oh yeah.
America.
Oh
But
yeah. It is. It is. It is. But I'd rather buy produce here than there. You know what I mean? It's just a harder country if you got to get used to it. That's all. And yeah,
well,
we
I
were
know
still.
it's pressure here because we've had people post that they bought lettuce in town and they went to clean it and a live frog jumped out of the bag. So that's how you know it's fresher here when things are shipping out.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
That's why you
True.
gotta clean. Yeah, that's also why you gotta clean everything you get. Is you don't know
Yeah.
if somehow a
Yeah.
frog or something accidentally got into the
Listen,
bag
if
on the lettuce.
if
See
the
here, we consider that a win-win here, for frog
Mhm.
legs. So, you
yeah,
know,
and listen, if you get a worm eating the leaves, it means that you can eat the lettuce. If the worm don't eat the leaves, if the worm comes up dead, that means you can't eat the stuff, right?
yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah.
So
That's everywhere where though. That
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
Japan is just. I was going to ask you about my friend's property. She lives in Indiana. Okay,
mhm,
she got attacked by a cryptid.
okay.
I don't know how to deal with it. It dragged her. It tried to pull her chain off, her protected chain off her neck, and it dragged her on the back, and it pulled her on the front, and she came out really scraped up. And I know her land is all Native American land because she's she has that blood in her too.
Mm.
How what can I do to help her? So he comes in and out.
There's not really much you can do. She can look for people in that area to investigate it. I don't know if Eric in the chat could follow up on that. I don't know how close he is to the area in Indiana, but
Yeah, she
you
lives
know,
in the boonies, and
yeah.
yeah, and it attacked her because she's wearing a protective symbol
Did
on her
she
neck or on her
did
neck.
she describe it? Was she sure that it was a cryptid and not a supernatural entity?
She said it was a cryptid because it looked at her and it grabbed her and it
Yeah.
dragged her all on the grass on her property. And she came back and she was just like black and blue from head to toe.
Hmm. Hmm. Did she describe it as and was it like a dog man, or was it like a Bigfoot, or was it like a goat
It
man,
wasn't
a
a
lizard
Bigfoot.
man?
It wasn't a Bigfoot. She was so shaken up. She didn't know what the heck to do. And it was during the daytime too. Like it didn't care what time it was. Like she was watering her plants outside. And
Hmm.
yeah, it came after her. And it has its own portal where comes in and out. And it's because I could see the spirits on her property, and I'm very respectful for them because you have to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And she is also.
the one thing that she can do is if it's constantly harassing her per
Mm-hmm,
se, or causing trouble or problems,
mm-hmm,
um, she's got to understand that there's a theory that I have, and
mm-hmm,
several of the investigators have, that if it has red eyes, it can not only be a cryptid, but it can be supernatural in
mm-hmm,
in in, in its entirety. So if it has red eyes, we tell people to avoid it. If it has red eyes, stay
mm-hmm,
away from it, and and
mm-hmm,
and hopefully it'll go about its different ways. Salt around your property,
mm-hmm.
smudge around your property with sage and cedar and sweetgrass,
Yeah,
you know, and take care of it that way. If it's a cryptid, we would need to know what type of cryptid it would be, whether it's, like I said, dog man, Bigfoot, lizard man,
mm-hmm.
goat man. It could be a number of different things, because in Indiana, in the Midwest, you're going to find out that there's a lot of cryptid activity.
Yeah,
Um, so
yeah. Especially on her land. Her land is a big chunk of property, right? and she lives way out in the sticks, not nowhere near the city, and she lives with it. She understands it, but that
Well,
was
what you can do is have, message me, in
okay.
Messenger on Facebook and give me the details and the
Mm-hmm.
location, and I can see if we have some people in that area to go and give her a hand, you know. So
Yeah.
that'd be the best way to handle it. Until then, I would tell her to just basically try to avoid, going
Yeah.
out alone at night. Try to avoid, being secluded somewhere on the property by herself.
Yeah. But it's
Um,
happening to her broad
don't-
daylight, and she couldn't believe it.
yeah. So that sounds more like it's almost a an evil entity type of
Yeah.
a being, a supernatural being.
Yeah.
And it's like I said with the Mothman, um, how he is, I believe he is connected to the angels, through the
Mm-hmm.
fallen angels, and
Mm-hmm.
you know whether he's their offspring from um, having earthbound women,
Mm-hmm.
and that whole thing of the Nephilim,
Mm-hmm.
because not all the Nephilim were just big giants. They were,
Mm-hmm.
some of them were animals,
Mm-hmm.
half animal and half human,
Yeah.
So I mean, it could be a number of things.
Yeah.
But if it's supernatural in nature,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably going to be very malevolent. So it's better off
Yeah.
that she stays away from the area that the attack was in until
Yeah.
she got. So
Well, I'll message you afterwards. We'll talk about it more. I
all
was
right.
just, I was just gonna ask you about that.
There is a theory that people are having now that demons were not actually fallen angels, but
Yeah.
offsprings of the Nephilim.
Yeah. Yeah, they the demons, see, demons are different from fallen angels. Yes, that's the big thing, and that's a misconception too, and trust me,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with the demonic, it's a whole another ball game, because the
Mm-hmm.
demonic can take over without even being invited in. As long as there's an opening, whether it's a sadness or a negative feeling that the person has, or something negative happening in the person's life for them to take over. Demons are definitely not fallen angels. Fallen
Yeah.
angels are different from demons. Fallen
Yeah.
angels um, basically thought the earthly women were beautiful, okay, and they
Mm-hmm.
mated with the women, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And from that conjoining were the Nephilim, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are some Nephilim that are described as half goat and half human. There's some
Mm-hmm.
Nephilim that are described as giants with one eye,
Mm-hmm.
and being hairy and half human. I mean, there's all different types of demons. Demons aren't just the ones that you see in these magazines or in these
Mm-hmm.
podcasts that have horns and look,
Yeah.
gruesome and everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the same thing of saying Lucifer looks like a red a devil, and he's
Yeah.
not. That red devil thing has nothing to do with what description of Lucifer is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, their demons are completely separate from fallen angels and Nephilim. It's
In
it's a whole
Japan,
different ballgame.
in Japan, demons are to live in the mountains. Okay, we have a ritual every February, the end of February, that we cleanse our houses and we throw soybeans, dried soybeans at them, and so you get rid of them. Because if you don't cleanse your house at the end of February, they'll come and they'll take your child.
Mhm.
That's urban legend. Okay, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well,
so
that's
we still do that. We still do that ritual at the end of the month. So I usually buy a whole bunch of dried soybeans, and somebody wears a mask. I'll show you what it looks like. Just a second. There we go. This is what a Japanese demon looks like. Okay,
okay. Yeah.
and they live in the
All right.
mountains. and it's just an urban legend that if you don't throw soybeans, if you don't cleanse your house, they'll come and take your children, and you'll never see your children ever again. So, it's one of the old urban legends that we still do even to this day.
Well, what's funny about that mask is that also actually looks a lot similar to a lot of the Sasquatch masks that are used in potlatch ceremonies and stuff in the Oregon and Washington and Canadian area.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that looks. I mean, even the fangs on it. I mean, it's very similar.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying to the potlatch mask that they wear. And you could actually look it up online and you'll see that the resemblance.
Yeah.
So do I believe that Sasquatch is a demon? No, I don't.
No. No.
I was brought up to believe that there was 4 different distinct types of Bigfoot. Okay. We have the huge ones from Alaska that can get up to 20 feet tall that are mean. Okay. And they're more apish than they are human, but they do walk like a human. They walk hunched over. Then we have the ones from South America that are the smaller ones that basically inhabited all the swamp areas of the South in America, from Florida to Louisiana and Texas. Okay. That are in the swamp areas. They get about 7 feet to 8 feet tall. And they're very mean, very hateful. They don't like humans. And then we have the human looking ones that get 9 feet tall that I consider are more like not even a Neanderthal. They're more like a Denisovans type of an ancestor, a 9 foot tall, basically Neanderthal. Okay. That they're very family oriented. They're the ones that gift. They gift feathers from winged birds. They gift all kinds of different things, rocks and everything. They're the ones that you can actually befriend and actually gift back to. And then you got the Gugway. Now the Gugway is, my people called it the Bear Man. Okay, because it did not like humans. It would basically use humans as its diet, pretty much. That's one way to say it. Okay. It's more cannibalistic than anything I've ever come up against. And they are very, very mean, very nasty, very strong, and very big. So, but they literally look like they have like the baboon snout on them, from the monkeys, and the baboons. And, they're definitely throughout parts of America here, that areas that you don't want to go in, because odds are you won't come back out. So, but that's the 4 that I was taught, from a child, from my experiences, and I've dealt with 3 out of the 4. So, the only thing I haven't dealt with is the small 7 foot, 8 foot tall ones from the swamps in the South. So, but other than that, I've dealt with all the other ones. I've dealt with the big ones from Alaska, the Gugways, and Denisova. So,
I want to show you another one. This is a blue one. So they come in 2 colors. The devils come in blue and they come in red. So that's why it's the blue one.
That's yeah. Those do look like if you put that next to one of the masks that they wear up in the Suquamish part of the country, you'll see that there is a very good similarity to that mask.
Yeah.
So,
and usually in Japan, what you do is you hang them in your house for luck.
So you hang the face of a demon in your house for good luck.
Yeah. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. Yeah. Yeah.
that doesn't make a lot of sense, but yeah,
No,
I guess
no,
I
it
guess
doesn't.
I guess it's kind of like the Amish do when they put stars and stuff on their barns to ward away evil witches and
Yeah.
stuff and the evil
Don't
demons and stuff from
why?
harming
I just
their
yeah.
horses and their cattle. So
Yeah, yeah. They use a lot of that stuff.
ugh. Well, I
Yeah.
hate to say it, but I'm gonna have to get going here pretty soon, guys.
Okay.
This has been
Okay.
fun, though. This has
Yeah.
been really fun.
We'll have to
You
have
have
you
to
back
come
on.
back.
I
You have
will
to
say
come
that
back.
the Bigfoot here is he's more gorilla. He looks more of a gorilla, but he's only
Mm,
5 foot tall, but his feet are like 10 inches long, six
yeah.
inches wide. But he moves faster than like any gorilla
Well,
or anything like
that sounds like the Malaysian one too that they found in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Um, the what do they call that? The orang pendek.
Mm.
Yeah, look up the orang pendek because it's like 5 foot or 4 foot tall also. And they talk about that thing being strong too. So it can carry off a human being.
The only thing
Small.
different is that they think that changed the DNA factors in the Bigfoot in Japan because they usually they are found in the mountains of Hiroshima, and after the atomic bomb, they think that it changed their body factors and it made them different.
But the
Mm.
problem is that, of course, that's what they're gonna say because they
Yeah,
think every cryptid somehow over here is from the atomic bombs. Both of
yeah,
them
Yeah.
mixed with DNA from either human or animals. We don't
yeah,
know. That's also what
yeah,
I was gonna say before we let him go. If
yeah,
anyone out there is a Bigfoot researcher or any cryptid
yeah,
researcher, please come to Japan because we do not have any here.
yeah,
So trust me, you're not gonna have any competition. If you come over here and start researching and whatever you find, because there's
yeah,
no one here to
yeah,
dispute
Mm.
you, we're gonna believe it because no one
yeah.
else wants to do the job. So
No,
All right.
please
yeah,
come to Japan, start answering the questions for us.
yeah,
We have a lot
yeah,
of them. No
yeah,
one wants to.
yeah,
No one wants to take the time to research them here. So please come to Japan.
yeah,
Please research. Please share your research because trust me,
yeah,
so many questions, no
yeah,
answer. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Well, that sounds like a challenge there, Eric. Maybe we
yeah,
should go to Japan.
yeah,
that's what we keep saying. Please come to Japan. We have questions and no answers. Please,
yeah,
we beg you. We need
yeah.
it.
And
All
just
right,
be careful.
guys.
You can't have any weapons here. You can't have any guns here because we have a stiff.
They're not going to bring guns to be shooting Bigfoot
No,
No,
or whatever
no,
cryptid.
no,
So
no,
yeah,
not at all. Not at all. You don't really need it anyways, to tell you the truth. And you don't need to carry a big club in the woods to bang on trees either, because
no,
that's not how the noise is made.
no,
So,
no. Yeah,
anyways, but
all right,
yeah,
William. Hopefully, we'll have
I'll
you
help.
back to continue
Oh
this
yeah,
conversation
definitely,
on cryptids.
yeah,
And
yeah.
everyone
definitely,
out there,
definitely.
thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's
Thank
been
you.
fun, guys.
It's
All
been
right,
fun. Yeah, we'll have to have you back on.
Yeah,
All right.
like,
And
heart,
thank
and share to their podcast, guys.
yes,
yeah.
Yeah,
please.
like, heart, and share the podcast. Okay, everybody in the
Thank you.
chat. Everybody, take
And thank
care.
you so much for joining us. Bye for now.